Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is the Benes podcast, and today's guest is Nicola Alberani. Nicola is a really good friend of mine, and he's also the sports director at Strasbourg. Strasbourg is a team that plays in the French First Division as well as the FIBA Champions League. And today we talked a lot about the nuances of the profession of a sports director, mostly of balancing two worlds, which is the team's dynamics and the management dynamics, the nuances of having hard conversations, especially with coaches. And actually, we also talked about how he fired a coach. And this is always a very difficult conversation to have. So it was really interesting to hear how he goes about it, how he handles himself within the team. And we also talked a little bit about his background and see how he came about of becoming a sports director. So please tune in, listen to it all the way through. Enjoy this conversation. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to all the audio platforms, go on YouTube, comment, share it with friends. I think there's a lot of useful information for up and coming sports directors, up and coming managers, scouts, etc., you name it. So please enjoy this episode and let me know what you thought of it. Talk to you later. Bye. Nicola, what's up, man?
Ciao Benas, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you. We were chit-chatting a little bit before this, and now we are live, almost.
Yeah,
Uh, I was always we had this discussion, and I don't remember where we first met, but I know you were at Roma, and I think we came to the conclusion that it was in Treviso. So I'm not sure if you remember or if you had came to a conclusion, but you know how they say the root of all evil is money, and that the root of all European basketball is Treviso or was Treviso. So what do you remember from that?
I know. I remember it was a wild situation. Now you will remember that we were heading by chance to the same events, and we were destroyed by the weather's condition, going to Turkish Cup and then to Leaders Cup. And then we had to land some lost situations, and then we had to fight through snow, through storms, and then we enjoyed beautiful Euro Disney. But that was the path, and our path crossed, in a very nice way, and we developed this good chemistry. And actually, I always forgot to tell you that now I'm home in Strasbourg, and my neighbor just nearby is the Lithuanian consulate.
Oh, nice.
Every time I was like, I have to tell Benes, I have to tell Benes.
So, yeah, I'm always on your mind. I'm always in the
Yeah.
back of your mind. Yeah, the Turkey trip was these scouting trips. We have so many stories to tell, and we forget about them until somebody brings something up that is similar. But the Turkey trip was special for several reasons. I think we knew each other before then already, but we spent some time in the snow in Turkey, driving on the wrong side of the road, downhill in Gaziantep, and then we had like a 5 o'clock flight the next morning to Paris. I mean, it was unbelievable. I remember that. It was in the moment. It was crazy to think about what we're actually putting ourselves through.
That was fun.
So today I prepared for you, as I prepare for everybody else, different segments. For you, I prepared four quarters. It's like sometimes I do 3 periods, sometimes I do 4 quarters, sometimes I go old school and do 2 halves. Who knows? But with you, I'm going new school, 4 quarters, and we'll see how fast we go through 'em, or how much we go through 'em, because I wrote down a lot. I wrote down
Wow. Okay.
a big deal.
Team plan.
Yes, big deal. So I do want to start with first as background, then we go through business a little bit, just the life we're living through day to day. Then a little bit about the team life inside the team, not necessarily Strasbourg as a team, but in your daily life within the team. And then at the end, of course, we're going to go through some philosophy, some philosophy in the sense of some growth and something that you go through, routines, habits, and stuff like that. But also some philosophical questions. But I want to start off with your background. There is a rich Italian history of basketball executives. We can start with Maurizio, we can go with Baese, and yada yada yada. There's this in terms of scouts and international scouts for NBA, in terms of professional GMs and sports directors in Europe. Where did basketball find you initially, and how did you get into becoming a sports director and pursuing this path? Like, where did basketball first find you?
I think basketball first found me in my hometown. That is a little town in Italy. There is one of the few where basketball first and soccer second. And maybe there is something in the air because it's the same town of hometown of Maurizio, and is the same hometown of the general manager of Virtus Bologna, Paolo Ronci. So maybe we breathe something in the air. It's a great basketball area. Maybe Forli is not the brightest in the area, but between Pesaro, Bologna, you have so much going on. And I grew up watching Maurizio's players, Maurizio's team. And when you are a young kid and you have the chance to grow up and see Bob McAdoo or Daryl Dawkins or players that that they made the history of Dean Garrett, they made the history of Italian and then European basketball. It's a great opportunity, and then you start loving the team, and then you start asking yourself, so how do they build this team? What's behind the team? And this is amazing to me, and that's where basketball caught me. In fact, I remember that I bought the first copy of Blue Ribbon, that I'm sure you're familiar with, in '91 when I was 16. So somehow I had this feeling. So yeah, that I would say is the thing.
But you were 16 once you started the path towards that, right? So that was your were you playing a little bit in the club, in the local clubs, and
Yeah,
getting to know basketball?
I was playing. I had the good ideas, but I couldn't translate to my body somehow. So it was frustrating. But yeah, I had this thing that I like to study players a lot. There was a lot of magazines to read, and I took like the challenge every summer. I was like, okay, my favorite team Forli will sign some imports, some Americans. I want to make sure that when the name jumps out on the newspaper, I'm aware and I already know who they are. So I started with this internal game within myself, and then I developed little knowledge. Then the team, Maurizio already left by then, the team had some financial issues, and there was space for everybody, whoever wants to help. So I was like, okay, I want to help, and they get me the chance, etc., etc.
So you started to compete with yourself on the names to make sure that you hold yourself accountable to know the names, and then you went from there basically.
Exactly. I hold myself accountable to be curious. I remember that the first team that was, that kind of gave me something is the team with John Fox and Bob McAdoo. And since then, I was like, oh, these players are amazing, and I want to get to know them more and more. Then, of course, I had a different path because the club was not doing so well. We sold the rights to Sassari by then, so I was so broken, so disappointed that was really my team no more. I tried to be an agent for a couple of years just to stay around, but it was not really the same. So I exit completely basketball. I got degree. I went to the business side of life, but then I was called back somehow. So that's what happened.
How did you find your way back?
I found my way back because I finished my business school. I did a master in hospitality in Switzerland. I worked in hotels in United States, Italy, Switzerland. But then I was called back home to open up a Holiday Inn, and which I was managing. And by then, the first player that I signed in 1998 became the coach of my home team that restarted somehow. And he called me back. And it was like, listen, we need something. Can you come back just after work a little bit? Can you be back with us? I said, okay. So I was doing the hotel and this
part time.
So and then we did pretty well. And one day I got the call from Roma. So then you start asking yourself, maybe this game is calling me strongly. I think I have to go to Roma. When Roma calls, you cannot say no.
Yeah, it's calling you strongly but killing you softly.
Sadly, because that's happening.
If people are familiar with the Fugees. But the thing that I get always asked, and this is a prime example that there is no one path to this business. When people ask me, how do I break through? How do I get in? Um, what do you? I'm sure you get this asked as well because there's a lot of ambitious scouts, ambitious, even journalists who would like to be scouts or working for a club, working for yeah, as a manager. Uh, what do you tell them? How do you break through? How do you make it into this business long term, or just find a foot through the door first?
I think the answer is my answer is that it's always very complicated to break through this business, and you cannot really plan to have a, I don't want to call it even career, maybe it's too much, but a journey into this world. It's very complicated to plan it. So what I say is that you have just to invest yourself, to put yourself 200% somehow, because the passion drives you through that, and not even thinking about the outcome. That's what I did, because I think I don't have basketball coaching background, a business background, but I think the good coaches that I had helped me a lot, starting from Renato Pasquale in 1998. They helped me a lot to understand the game, and but then you put 200% yourself into this, and then it pays back somehow. But it's difficult to explain a path that pays off, and the market of the work, the front office management works is changed a lot lately. It's very different from what it was before. I was discussing that with my friend Nicola yesterday. It changed a lot. So I think you just have to love it and do maximum. So that very simple.
Yeah, there's no single path for like there's no book for that, you know. So everybody's journey is different and everybody's personality is different. I think personality plays a big role of gaining the trust of the club, or in general just feeling comfortable with somebody, you know. So I think that's a big factor. But in general, I tell people, like you said, like do the work that you're doing now as good as you can, and let other people notice it, and hopefully you get introduced to the right person at the right time in the right place, and then it can take off from there. Because in the end of the day, it is a network, which we will talk about later, but it is also just luck in terms of timing, because you cannot predict it. Like I said, you cannot plan it. So you have to be doing your work, do the job, and then let the cookie crumble. That's basically what I say.
Yes, you have basically, like we ask to our players to dive on every loose ball. That's what we have to do. We have to be aggressive in another way, which is put maximum effort, develop the network, watch more games than others, sleep less than others, and then something supposedly will come.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to Maurizio a little bit, because you were close to him, and I think it's also like a mentor for a lot of Italian scouts or Italian executives, just because he's been in the business so long. What's one lesson that you could take away from him, or you feel like you learned the most from him that you still hold on today?
Yeah, for sure. I learned a lot from him. I met him since I'm 14. Because he was he was helping me to go to the first basketball camps in the United States. I went to Jim Boeheim basketball camp. So really my family tried to pull out the best basketball player that was in me, but really they didn't succeed. But, I know him since a lot of time. And I think that the value of the network and the value of the people are the most important things in this business. And this is what I think it taught me the most. And I see him working. I try to go to Istanbul at least once a year, and seeing him working, see how he's faithful to his word, see how he takes care of the people for which he has sincere interest. That's what really amazes me still nowadays.
Yeah. appreciating the value system, and I've noticed that a lot of Italian GMs, Italian scouts, there's a real value system in place with everything that you do, because of the personal relationships you have to be. I feel like when you have exchanges, there's also a certain amount, a lot of trust that comes into it that you have to really develop over time, and that only comes through proving that you're true to your values every time, and not just like wishy-washy, like one time you're like this, and then if there's something that like 2-3 years later that you do, that's something off, that's a little bit different than what you used to be, that's immediately comes a question mark. So that's also a strong value system in terms of like personality and virtues, and truth telling, no bull crapping around. Like there's always I can sense the professionalism when I talk to you, but also when I talk to Maurizio, when I talk to Daniele, and other scouts as well. So I'm wondering if that's like cultural. Is that something that you grow up with, or is that just generally experiencing the business and learning what's really important?
I think it's more cultural, because in the business, unfortunately, there is also it's not
You're right.
all beautiful and love, pink flowers. No, I think it's more cultural, but I see it also that it's a paradox. But the people, I don't want to say my best friends, but the people I'm closest to are the ones doing my job, because only Maurizio, Daniele, and many others, Federico, Paolo, they understand how I feel in a given moment, when to call, when not to call, when you call, what to ask and what not to ask. But you don't ask because of friendship. Sometimes, you call a friend that is having a bad moment, and but you don't talk about basketball. You don't ask about the last game, or you don't ask about the coach, or why if I go. We try to support each other in a different way, and this is more cultural, I guess.
Yeah, it's something that I guess intuitively you feel. Once you know the culture, you know the person, you kind of feel what to ask, what not to ask, and it's a relationship factor, right? It's like in a friendship. You feel like that your friend or your partner is going through a tough day, and there's certain things you shouldn't mention. So I think it's also the same thing in a we call it. I don't want to call it business relationship, because I've called it more of a business friendship / friendship, because it's a development, and there's a certain amount of like the relationship and the friendship grows over time. So that getting to know each other and then knowing what to say, what not to say is very important.
Yeah, let's call it empathy. A lot.
Yeah,
You
empathy.
dose of empathy helps a lot. I'm very empathic as a person. I always try to put myself into other people's shoes, especially with my players. Then we can discuss about this later. But
Yeah.
that helps then to develop a respectful and profitable relationship.
But empathy, like that's one thing I noticed with you also when we talk, and I'm getting better at this as well. Well, you're good. I'm getting better at this. Is listening. You're a very good listener, and that has to do also with empathy and being in the moment and being dialed in, listening through, not interrupting, and then answering the question afterwards. Where does that come from? Did you learn that? Did you read about it? Did you develop over time? Did somebody tell you off that you're interrupting all the time, or how did that come on?
I think it's a bit of my own personality, and then honestly, I read a lot. These books on personal improvement, psychology. I like to read a lot. With our work, we have to spend a lot of time up in the air, so it's a huge chance to read. I try to read even every evening a bit, but yeah, that's how it comes.
We'll talk about books at the end. I really would like to know something new on that. But if we go into the business segment now, into the second quarter, and we talk about network and trust. So let's talk about the importance of the network, and how do you build it? Where do you start building the network, and how do you maintain the network?
I use this example. I have a friend of mine that works as an engineer at Fiat. That is a manager of he designed diesel engines for Fiat, and he always says that they installed the culture that the value of the company is really a sum of the value of the suppliers. This is what they say in Fiat culture. So I see in our job that our quality, our value is the quality of our network, more or less. Of course, the network is not a supplier, but still the people you can call when you're down, when you don't have a job, when you miss a player, that's really your value. And with me, I have it works in such a way that I'm very, very selective. I have I know a lot of people, but my real network is pretty small. And especially in searching for a player, if it's in the network, fine. But if it's outside of the network, I'm not the guy that calls someone randomly, which I don't know, to get information on a player that I don't know. So it adds confusion over confusion. So for me, the network is really everything.
I can consider myself lucky then, huh?
I didn't put it this way, but
we have a strong relationship from history, going through snow and everything.
Exactly, went through snow. No, but really, if I need an information on a player and I call you, and I'm not calling many people, but if you kill the player, I'm not proceeding. I'm not calling further, or because otherwise, why should I call you? Or why call 20 people? I see many colleagues calling 20 people. Okay, sometimes you call the guy, you ask for a number of the GM, but that's just the cherry on top of the pie. But really, the pie is the network. Otherwise, you don't do, or the candy.
Yes, the candy. We're back to the candy.
With candy, so.
I learned it's quality over quantity. You know, you have to have your people in every country that you trust, and you feel like they trust you, and you can constantly exchange. There is situations where you don't know how to get information on a certain player, so you're asking your trusted source maybe to introduce you together to somebody else who they will know that he's coming from a trusted source. So it creates a triangle of trust, you know, and this is, you know, there's has to be a certain amount of history behind the person that introduces you to, but that obliges you to not to disappoint the other person, or not to, like, it works both ways basically, you know, because at some point they will also ask me for something, some information. So it's an informational business, and we rely on each other. But like you said, it's rather important to have one or two good sources in the country than have 20, because there's also amount of over scouting, over information, and then everybody learns by doing at the end of the day. And you get the player, you get them in a different environment with different players around them, different dynamics, you might have a completely different information about him. So it's also, there's a lot of things that come into play with the dynamics of own experience.
Exactly, because sometimes, you know, when you know that the information comes from a trusted source, then, I mean, very, very much trusted, then it's okay. And because you have empathy with the person, you know the value of the person. So you know what means a good person or a bad person. Because also, I believe, you know, that very rare that you find bad players and good players. Okay, there are, but the context makes everything. So to understand the context where the evaluation is performed, the environment, that's primary. So to understand the context, you need to really have empathy. It's beyond he can score, he cannot score. No. Yeah. How was the teammates? How was the club? How's the city? Do they pay on time? How's the coach? Is the son of the president the backup? You know, so all these things come from empathy to me, or to sharing, you know, life experiences, or a lot of work together.
Yeah, like you have to make your research in terms understanding and being basically putting yourself in that person's shoe as well. You know, like you have to also understand what the person may be feeling. A rookie coming for the first time over to Europe, he might be he's going to change. He's going to be a different player and a different person in 2-3 years. So is it just the first experience, the first the first impression that he was exposed to, that really influenced his character and maybe bad reactions, or is he intrinsically the way he is? So there is a certain amount of, like you said, empathy, to putting yourself in that person's shoe and understanding what he or she or whoever might be going through in that particular season, particular moment, or first month of the season.
Yes, and also why you need this, because the reality is that nowadays more and more, when you call to have infos, nobody wants to have a problem with anybody. And if you call, I mean, you work for a great franchise, but when you call the average college coach on a player, what do they say to you?
Yeah.
Player, great guy, amazing person, super family. So we don't even call them. So it's very difficult to get information. But even, sometimes it's like, I don't know you, why you want information on my player? Okay, it's good. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, but why I need to have the agent to call me back, or maybe you misuse my information. So I just stay
neutral. Yeah.
And I don't give you nothing. So what you need is the people that say the real truth, or the real what's behind the scene, and that comes only for empathy. If you're not invested with the person, you don't really want to push.
I absolutely agree. Did you have a player in your history where you had one information, you come in? I'm sure there was cases like that where all of a sudden you have a completely different experience that your people told you, and then how to deal with that. I don't want to, we don't need to talk about the name itself or the player itself, but in general, was there a situation? If there was, how did you manage to deal with it and maybe interfere and change the ways?
It was some years ago, and I had exactly this experience, but this comes from learning. This is not philosophy. This is experience, unfortunately, that I had a player that was strongly recommended, and then it was completely the opposite. And then I got back to the source, and I was like, you told me something that is completely not true. I said, yeah, but by then we didn't know each other very well, so why I have to tell you the truth? Okay.
Okay. I see.
Now I know. Okay, now I know what's the rule of the game. Good to know.
How early was that in your career?
It was very early. I was just still in the hotel business. I was not so early. It was the beginning of the second phase. So it was like 2009, something like that. So
you're getting your feet wet.
Yeah.
Learning
that was
the hard way.
Problem, because also I got back in basketball, but I had a gap of like 10 years of not knowing, not studying players. By then I can tell you average room rate for all the hotels in Switzerland, but I cannot tell you much about school. So luckily those players are finished. They are gone. They don't play no more, that generation. So now I'm good. I'm covered. I know.
But I struggle with that philosophy of that, whoever did that, because I feel like there's also, like in the relationship with, like with a partner, with a girl, like it's, you have to be the one to show, like I'm an open personality, so I will give you the trust first. And like Joe Rogan says also, you start up with 100 points, and then we'll see how much we deduct each time that we have an interaction or whatever. But it's a matter of showing the trust to get trust back. So I would never ever say, even though maybe we don't have a deep relationship, I would maybe lead you to the conclusion, or maybe help you to read between the lines, and not giving you the full information, but I will give you a hint that, look, maybe just to protect you, even though maybe we're in the same league. That's another, like, if you're in the same league and you're asking like, maybe I want to give him a little bit of a bad apple, just to, a competitor. So I wouldn't do that. I struggle to not to say the truth. I mean, I had just a quick story. I was stopped by the police for driving too fast in Latvia, and I'm not gonna say who I was in the car with, but it said, "Hey, do not speak Russian. Tell them you don't speak Russian." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, it comes in and it's like, "Oh, добрый вечер," blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, he's like, "Do you speak Russian? Can you speak Russian?" I was like, "Yeah, I speak Russian." Like, I can't lie, man. I'm sorry, I can't lie. I'm gonna tell you the truth, and yeah, that's strength and weakness, I suppose.
Yeah, it's no. I'm a bit the same. What I developed through the years is that sometimes when they ask me about some disaster players, some guys that you should not touch, I say, listen, don't ask me why, but for me it's a no. Don't go for
Yeah.
call someone else, but for me it's a no. Don't
Yeah.
I don't tell you why, because if I tell you, then we have to stay on the phone 2 hours maybe, and no. But for me, it's complete no. This is the
It
maximum I go when I don't know someone.
Yeah, it's also when you don't know somebody, you are kind of reluctant to say give them details, because if that person ends up telling the same details somebody else, then they will know where it's coming from, you know. So there's a trace factor that it can get traced back to the source, like we traced our relationship probably back to Treviso, or so there is a certain trace that you can follow if you give out certain details that maybe you didn't or you shouldn't have, and then you will, you know, there's repercussions from that whole chain.
Exactly. Or you put someone else in danger, the person that gave you the information, and now you put them in danger for what? So
Yes,
you don't want to do
yes,
that, and that's why it's more safe. Safer.
yes, yeah. What was your toughest season as a pro?
My toughest season was my. I honestly I didn't have. I have many tough seasons, but probably the one that taught me the most is the last one at my hometown, because it's very difficult to be successful in your hometown. When we went down from Division 2 to Division 3, because it taught me a lot, and we didn't went drop to third division because of basketball. There were a lot of problems that was difficult, but it taught me a lot. Probably the most difficult, but then the most rewarding was my second season in Rome, because it came from a great season. We did the finals that season. We did the semifinals. We went through a huge changing coach, and losing Gigi Datome for the NBA, and the whole organization. And that was the most difficult but most rewarding, because we did the semifinal, and that was the season that I love the most, because also I think I love seasons. I love all the seasons, because every season teaches you something. Even last year, at the end of the season, I tried to sum up and say, what did I learn this season? What is the thing that you go away with? Because
Yeah,
I always try to improve, or I don't want to be the same professional that I was 12 months ago. So I think after 1 year, so what did others do? What did others understand already that I didn't? Can I steal something from this season, from this experience? So every season in the end leaves you with something. So I like all my seasons, honestly.
that's what's the biggest takeaway or biggest lesson, not out of all of them, but one single lesson that you learned from one season that still follows you till this day?
For sure that you have to be loyal to yourself, and you want to sync with good people, not with bad people. I may make a mistake, but sometimes I may force a basketball decision, but I don't want to force a personality decision, and bring someone that is detrimental to the team, but is a good player. No, I want to sync. I want to lose all the games with good people that try, not good people because we hang out and have pizza, but good people that work hard, believe in the project, and give the maximum of themselves. This is the thing that I felt.
Values again, have the right values. Yeah, we'll go back to values again. And this is one thing I do the same as well after each summer that I had with the national team, or also before that with Ceska. Like, I learned to write down everything after the season or after the summer with the national team. Like, what did I like about the players, about everything around, and the lessons that I take away. Because it's not that you're gonna go back, but you will remember better, and you will put pen to paper on the lessons you learned and the biggest takeaways from that you can remember. You can remember certain things that season were special, that made or broke the season, you know. And I think that's very important for everyone involved in this business to write it down after the session, you know, whether it's the season or it's the summer.
Absolutely, you need to take to create your own history, and you know, your own trajectory, your own, I don't want to say legacy, but years after years, you need to put things together. Otherwise, you're always the same, and I don't want to be the same person I was before. So I try to be better.
Yeah, we shouldn't be the person we were 5 years ago. we the value system should be the same, but we shouldn't be stuck in our box and not do things differently. You should be explore and learn and grow, and also learn from the past. You still have the values, the foundation in place, but the house can change, or the tree might grow in different directions.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is what we have to. You should not. I think change the amount of work or the engagement that you have. Actually, that should be always top. But you can adjust a bit.
Yeah.
Learning from the past.
Yes. Yeah. The hard conversations. I'm a communication geek, as you know, and we will touch on communication in several aspects here. But firing a coach. This is in the. Did you have to ever fire a coach?
I did twice.
Twice. Okay. So it's an integral part of the business, and I want to know the thought process that goes into it before that happens, and how do you approach the conversation as you go into the conversation?
I think in a way, experience taught me that also not renewing a contract is perceived like a firing in June. So I didn't expect, but yeah, that's also come with the years. But I have to say that firing a coach is not nice. It's not always, but it's part of the job. You have to do it because you have to do it. First of all, to me, this is business. It's nothing personal. And with the two coaches that I fired during the season, I'm still in touch today. So this is to say that I always try to go on a business side, not on a situational or emotional push. But to me, the experience is that okay, we're managers and we have to judge the performance. Fans have to judge the results, first of all. And when you have to fire a coach, honestly, it's more for the Monday to Saturday or Monday to Friday work than for the Saturday happening. Because on the long term, the Saturday, here is Saturday, in Italy Sunday, the Saturday is an outcome of you do your homework well, if you work well, if you communicate well, if the team perceives you well. So it's impossible, I would say, to me, that is a perfect week, perfect team, and you keep losing and losing and losing. So I would still stick on that. Again, maybe what values, but you don't fire a coach because you lose games. If you lose games, there must be a reason. Or, sometimes I lose and I'm still, okay, but we were not that bad. Or sometimes I win and I'm depressed because I see that the loss will come soon. So firing a coach, it's more, you feel it during the week. It's not about the result. This is my case. I have to do it only twice, luckily, so it's good.
So basically, you fire the coach because you don't trust the process anymore.
Or I see the players don't trust the process, or I see that there is a bad chemistry with the board, or I see that it doesn't see what the problems are, or sometimes coaches go on a pessimistic mode, and then they stop thinking, they stop analyzing properly, and they see enemies everywhere, and they stop focusing on the job. They start looking more at everything that is around them. So that's where I see the problem. But it's not about the basketball that goes in or the basketball that goes out. It's bigger than that to me. And I have to say that if you are frank and if you motivate things properly, then normally the other person should understand this, because it's a long disease. It's not, again, that you have 6 perfect days and then you lose. Okay, we stick with you, but it wasn't the case.
How many conversations do you have before, when, like, is there a final straw where you see, like you said, like if the coaches starts to get completely paranoid and stubborn and doesn't see or doesn't admit to it, partly because he's probably afraid to lose a job, partly because he's maybe it's just stubborn. what's the final straw at the end of the day? Is this just like a certain conversation that's going to end, or like if the process is good and you're still losing games, it's still there's still like some sort of. I mean, you don't. Let me put it back. There, at the end of the day, if the process is good, the victories will come. That's what you believe. But when they're still not there, how long does your patience last, and how many conversations do you feel like you have to have?
There is not one rule to me, because I can tell you that, for example, the season we dropped from Division 2 to Division 3, I didn't change the coach, and we arrived to be 10 losses in a row. So I'm very patient, but if I trust the process, but then if you don't pay the salaries, if you sell players that because you can get a buyout, and then you try to replace them somehow, and then you have injuries, then the coach, you change the coach for what? I mean,
Yes,
it's not
yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
coach. So I give you an extreme case that I lived, and it may happen that I decide to change coach at the end of a very successful season, because I don't think there is more margin to develop together.
Yeah.
So it really, sometimes I give myself time. I say, but it's not. I try to involve the club as well, to feel how is the president, the club, the owner, because also having a strong coach is better for me in the end, because then the club is calm. When I have a nervous club, nervous board of directors, then the work is bad. So when you see that negativity, you try to calm it down, but then we can change a player, but not with this coach for the next one. If we go in this mood, then it's so.
Yeah.
In the end, we do a lot of crisis management. We do the team, and we do crisis management. Those are the two things. In an ideal season, you don't need the sport director.
So that's a perfect transition, because the next topic, topic I wanted to go through with you is the defining the sports director position, because you have a GM above you and you have a coach below you. So you're basically like a tunnel that has to, it has to be aligned, obviously, but you also have to maneuver a lot of issues, a lot of personalities, a lot of crisis management, like you said. Can you define what goes into being a sports director, and how do you juggle all that?
It's a very different job from club to club. So before I was telling you that the market changed a lot. I started my career like the Maurizio type, the one-man band, and that was before it was like that. In Italian basketball, the president has huge companies. He doesn't want to take care of basketball, just enjoy the fun of it. Calls the guys, this is a key, handle everything. And I started that in Forli. In Roma was the same. But then I see the market is changing, and this professionalism is not required anymore. So I went to the specific side of my job, the most technical. And as a sport director, then you have to try to find your way to adapt to a club. So sometimes it's like you said, you have GM, owner on top of you. Here in Strasbourg, we have the president that is active, and then he represents the Conseil Surveillance. That's because we have multiple ownership. And then there is the head of the business side and the head of the sport. So it's very simple. He is actually my colleague, but in reality is my boss also, because everything that I have to do requires money. So I have to go back every day. So in theory, we are colleagues, but we're not. But yeah, you have to find your way, and you have to be the link for the basketball, the facilitator for everybody else, and put the coach in the best condition. Often, not every time, we have the pleasure to choose the coach. It happened very rarely in my career. I think only once, really, or twice. But then you try to put the coach in the best condition, because a strong coach is a lot of good life for me.
So, yeah, sorry. So the good coach, a good coach with, how would you describe the like the personality of a coach that you're seeking that would make life easier for you. But like, what are the characteristics you would look for, generally speaking, not like just generally speaking?
I think very often we don't even, in my experience, I'm not even in the position to choose the basketball style that I prefer, because I stick so much on values that when you have a certain budget, a certain club, a certain situation, then there are not so many people with the same value that I have available. So it may happen that you have at the end of the day only one, if you're lucky. So we don't have to choose between 4 or 5, and then the different basketball styles are, something that you can eventually use as a second degree investigation. Sometimes you just take the best person and then you adapt your team building, the way you build the team, build the roster, to the characteristic of this coach, and you try to facilitate his life. This is how I see it. I have colleagues that they stick on the basketball, but me, I cannot do it. The basketball comes later. In the end, to me, in basketball, there is much less basketball than people think. Maybe this may sound outrageous, but it's more important that, again, the people, the person, the values, what you have inside, the motivations, the stage of your career, what you want to achieve, where you want to be in 5 years. And again, the network comes back to you to help you and tells you really who's this guy. Because honestly, something that I don't believe very much is the interview or a coach. Because when we do interviews, we are all very beautiful, very, very nice. We look great. We talk, with great terminology. Everybody knows a lot. We're prepared. We're bright. But to me, you really know a person when you sit next to him in the locker room after you lose 3-4 times in a row. Then you know a person,
Exactly.
not in the interview. So, okay, we will do the interviews. I will do again. But it's more about the guy that next to me, my friends that tell me, hey, I lost 3 games with him, 4 games. The fans were out there. The president was yelling, but he was calm. He was keeping his mind fresh, and we worked it out and we bounced back. This is something special. But the interview is beautiful, but in the end, it doesn't tell you the whole truth.
It's a very nice PowerPoint presentation, and you put a bow around it, and everything is nice. But at the end of the day, like you said, the experiences and the character shows in the toughest moments, and that's when you get the information about how he handled himself and how strong characteristics, and I think charisma also. Somebody told me charisma is also very important in terms of like portraying and shining in those moments, and having personality that you can relate to, that people feel like, man, this guy not only knows what he's talking about, but he's also good with people and can connect with the players on a different level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes also, it's a matter of being practical, because this is also a phrase that I read last year. I liked it. I read it last year in the gym of Le Portel. Is that nobody lives long enough to make all the mistakes. You can even learn from others' mistakes, not only from yours. So you buy other people's experience when you give a phone call or you ask for advice, and this is how it works.
That's a good saying. I mean, it's you learn from other people's mistakes. There's not enough time to learn from your own mistakes. You have to be open to evaluating other people's mistakes too. Going into the team aspect in the third quarter, as we're talking about roster makeup, and where would you start if you had a clean slate and you can start off building a roster? What's the first thing you do, and what sort of players would you start off building a roster with, basically?
Normally, when I choose a job, I always try to go when I can choose in the situation that offers me the whitest page, so I can exactly do what you say. And the first players that I try to sign are the building blocks, that are the players that you don't see much, but for some reason are in the same team 3, 4, 5 years. Mm-hmm. Those are the teams, because they give you a mental structure and that mental toughness, the accountability, that you search in a group when you want to model the group. For example, in Strasbourg, this is already the second season where we put the best scorer, we sign him for last. This is why, because the difficult players to sign are these guys that will bring you intangibles, good personality, work ethic. At the end of the day, I don't want to put my players down because we signed great players. Last year we signed Bonzi Colson for last, also Brandon Jefferson. This year we signed an amazing player, EuroLeague guy like Jared Eddy, that will supposedly be our top scorer. At the end of the day, it's easier to prepare a beautiful, it's more difficult to prepare a beautiful situation and then to get this type of player than to have the guy that do the things that nobody wants to do. Those are the players that are more difficult.
Yeah, the roster makeup is complicated, right? Because you also have to consider what you already have, and then it's unpredictable of how the personalities are going to mesh between each other. That's why I think your points are very valid because of again, going back to the value system in terms of players that bring this foundation to your locker room that even especially in the bad moments will hold their ground, and then the scorers, the players they will take care of the things that they do best. But you cannot have panic in the locker room, and I think it starts with the right captain, with the strong personalities that can also openly communicate with each other, and that's where I'm going again, communicating with the players from your position. What conversations when do you start approaching the player that you feel like you have to address something? Is that something that you see, like, or are you distant and you keep a line until there's no more? Like, how often do you communicate with the players in general?
Depends again from the situation. I try to be distant from the players. It was not a long time ago that I was still younger of some of my players. Even when I arrived from Forli to Roma, I was younger than Tonoli. So I had always to keep distance somehow, not to be eaten by the players, not in a bad way, but you try to defend the integrity and the role of each person in the team. So normally you can drop a message I don't like texting. First of all, I'm not. I try to always to communicate face to face. I always try to do little timeouts for a coffee. Eventually, I get you out for lunch just to see how are you. So if you break bread together, I think it's always very good. I always try to keep the line of communication open, and eventually, if I have to screw up, I screw up pretty intensely, I have to say. So it depends. Sometimes it's just a way of communication. Every player has his own different style. So again, empathy helps because some guys prefer the phone call. Some guys you have to put them in a relaxing situation. So you need something longer. Some guys are very fact oriented. So no bullshit. Tell me what you want to tell me and I'm fine. So it's really depends from the situation and the player.
But do you, when you see there's a conflict brewing, do you first approach the player or in a certain way, or do you go through the agent?
No. The agent I use only when it's about contract and money. No, I don't. I inform the agent sometimes because in very special cases there is a history between him and the player. So in that case, I may end up using the agent, but I don't believe in agents helping me during the season. I think on the season it's just me and the coach against everybody. So I don't believe that the agent can do much, or because at the end of the day the agent doesn't know. And some agents are very good, I have to say, but some others just try to play the defensive way, or they're there in another country or another continent, different jet lag. They maybe talk to the players once a month at best. So how they can see my daily frustration because he's overweight, I don't know. So I think I have very good relationship with all the agents, but I don't use them to help me out or to facilitate my job.
I think, yeah, I think you're right. It would create an unnecessary triangle, and that's when the communication gets lost because there's no direct line, and then there's misinterpretation. There's certain dynamics that comes into play. That's the same thing in this regard. It's the same thing as like a team would choose a sports psychologist, and for the sports psychologist not to be with the team the whole time. Like what value do you get from a sports psychologist? I mean, we're changing topics here, but I'm just trying to find, for an example, what value do you get from a sports psychologist if he doesn't feel the team day in, day out? He doesn't know the dynamics between the players, between the coach, between the sports director, and the whole climate of the locker room. If like if you really want to solve issues, this and have the genuine good opinion of the sports psychologist, he needs to be a full-time part of the team.
Absolutely, because it's sometimes you are a scout, but you're also a coach, and sometimes it's a matter of one bad face, one bad answer, some bad body language. So if you're not there the whole time, you cannot understand this. This is also a problem that you have sometimes with owners or presidents, because they have a general idea, whether good or bad. So you have to be there and share experiences and see how the team interacts. I believe sometimes, there is a strong correlation between how a team eats and how a team plays.
Interesting. Explain.
I've never seen a team where everybody has his face on the cell phone and eats like that and then express great basketball. I mean, this is my experience. So our coach here is very good too. So we have a problem because normally I was trying always to eat looking at the players. Here I want to, but also I want to eat in face to the coach. So here he's the one that looks at the players because he believes in that too, and I live in the privilege. But normally there is a strong correlation in this. Again, people, values. So I think addressing to a player is really personal. Depends on the personality that the player has.
Yeah, that's the phone thing. Is like times have changed, and it's you cannot completely disallow it, but you observe, like they're not little kids, but you observe the situation of how they are actually able to put the phone away, maybe, and interact and talk and have a facial interaction. Because if you cannot address, I mean, if you cannot talk about normal things and have the phone in front of your face, how can you address between the team? I'm talking between the players. How can you address issues and be able to deal with the reaction? Because you're not used to having the reaction. Like you're not used to seeing the facial reaction. You're not used to hearing the tone of the voice. That all of that's like kids. They're learning now that are phone oriented. They're not learning the social cues, the voices, the tone, and it changes the whole behavior pattern of their future lives. So going back to the team, how do you control that and see and still try to implement your value system within the team and make them understand that we need to have this interaction at a certain point of time and certain point of the day. Whenever you're alone, you can use it, but there's nothing like, you cannot use it. You cannot say that.
No, I think a lot has to go with the fact that, to me, again, I think in our position we don't have to have any ego. The sport director is a facilitator. So I try, and this is a discussion or a fight that I had with some coaches. I try to understand the different generations, and I try to understand what is the key to enter this person's heart or this person's problem, and what's important to him: the family, the father, the girlfriend. It's very different. And then once you have that little key, you try to use it, because I think with the players of 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or players that belong to that generation, you tell them what to do, and most of the time they just do it. Now, I have this debate with one coach recently. Now, what you have to do is to understand their values and make them use them to your advantage, so you can communicate with them. Some coaches have still the opinion, but they come to Italy, they have to understand us, they have to adapt. No, because if they don't adapt, we lose the games. So, at the end of the day, we have to be practical, no ego. They don't adapt. I'm adapting to everybody. That's maybe part of the hotel business situation where they teach you that the very good hotel manager must be, a smoker with the people that smoke, alcoholic with the people who like to drink. You must like communism with the communists. You must like, business. Because you have to adapt to your clients. And in a way, I'm trying to do the same. I'm trying to adapt to my players and to understand what's important for each of them. Some are more delicate, some are more rough. But this is the fun part of the job, because then again, when there is the crisis management, the difficult moment, I think you need to have the real keys. Sometimes there is no time to do a lot, and you need to win, react, bounce back quickly.
Basically a chameleon job description. You're constantly adapting.
Yeah. The coach should have strong ego and strong, but our job, we can do the compromise guy, or try to when we have to put everybody in line in the best condition to work. The coach first, the players.
Yeah, it's a hierarchy system, in a certain regard, and everybody has their role, and everybody has to fulfill their role in their best way, which is obvious in every job. But to get back into your, as we talked about, the sports psychologist has to be present. The daily life of a sports director in terms of observing, feeling, attendance in practice. Walk me a little bit through your daily routine. It's not a 9-to-5 job, but there's a certain amount of consistency that you put in terms of like attendance and balancing how many hours you spend in front of the laptop, how many hours you spend or messaging, writing, emails. Talk to me through your daily life.
My daily life starts very early. I'm not a night bird at all. So something that gives me confidence, because I think I don't have the blessing of being a coach, and I don't think I'm a great talent. I try to work more than others. So being awake at 5:30 in the morning watching games when I think that everybody else, or almost, is sleeping. So it puts me in a good mood, because I think I'm creating an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, now I just had the second baby that she works the same way. So this routine is been messed up since 1 month, but this is the normal life of the last 20 years. I wake up very early. I watch a couple of games, also because during the day you don't really have time to watch games. When you go to the club, everybody needs you for some reason. Maybe it's stupid, and then there is the players and the coach, so you don't go watch games in the club. So I start with synergy very early, American coffee very early. I try to do little exercise, like 30-40 minutes every morning. Unfortunately, I like to eat, and my wife, she's excellent in the kitchen, so I have to exercise every day. So I come to the office normally in a normal day at like around 9:30, 9, before the practice. But by then I already watched 2-3 games, and I'm in shape. So the day can start. And it's selfish, but efficient to me. And some months I cannot do it because of the schedule, blah, blah, but this is really what is important to me. And then you just try to be around the practice. I don't want to be there at all practice. I don't want to watch all practices, because I think my presence has to be, I'm not friend of the players. I'm not close to the players. I want, that when I'm there, but otherwise they don't have to get used to me. And same way, I don't enter the locker room. Maybe I enter the locker room 2-3 times a year, maybe 0. But if I enter, the players have to be like, what the fuck is he doing? Maybe something wrong is going on if I'm in the locker room. So then I watch the practice. I check back with the coach. How was it? Who was good? Who was bad? We have a little briefing about the situation, the plans, the schedule, and then you go back to eat at home, or you eat in the office. Depends what the logistic situation of the day. And then normally after lunch you do some phone calls. to friends, colleagues, scouts, because the biggest part of my job is to be ready for the next season. Because we work for the future more than the coach. It needs to win on Sunday. We need to win on Sunday too, but we are in our head already on the recruitment for the next season. And to get good information on a player, on a rookie, on whatever, it takes a lot of time. Or to keep my network good and make sure everybody's fine. So those are the hours that I use the most. And then I go back to practice. Try to stay around again, or do what it takes to the daily life of the job, and then probably there is some cup to work to look FIBA Euro Cup, blah blah blah, EuroLeague, that for me is the nicest one to watch. And then definitely I try to go back home and have some moments for myself, for my family, because at least those 2-3 hours, I would like to see the kids that are still around. And if I can, I eat with them at lunch. Otherwise, I see them for dinner and see what's the situation. Now it's different with the kids. Before, I didn't have family. Now I have, and I try to maintain maximum focus. And I don't have a wife. I have a saint, and she understands that that unfortunately our job is very peculiar.
Yeah,
she has to accept this situation. She does, and I think the family is most important for us, because some guys are affected by their families or by the sentimental situation, and this is not good for the job. I try to always to do the maximum, and then I go to sleep very early, sometimes 9:30, or I don't even finish I don't even watch the games that are too late. I watch the next morning on Synergy, because sleeping is more important. And I have to wake up at 5:30, so I cannot go to bed at midnight.
yeah.
So I wake up in the morning. Normally I have like 12, 15 messages that I have to answer immediately. But yeah.
Yeah, it's that was going to be a good transition point also to the fourth quarter, and you kind of answered it already with the balance between work and family and life in general, because it seems like you have clear borderline, like you have a good foundation in the morning to start off the day. You have a clear line of how you want to attend practice, when you do video work, when you don't do video work. In the gym, it seems like you're all occupied about the players and the people around the club. Then in the afternoon, you basically you come back home, you eat lunch if you can, and you do emails and messaging. And then at nighttime, after the second practice, you dedicate the time to the family. On the road, like you said, there's people can be affected by the family conflicts, but it's also vice versa, where family can be affected by the work conflicts. How do you differentiate that, and how do you separate those two?
I think it comes back everything to one rule that I didn't mention, that to me, I'm faithful to coach, to club, etc. But I'm faithful only really to one thing, that is victory. So I believe that some behaviors bring you closer to victory. Some behaviors bring you farther to victory. So every time we do something in the club, and I'm trying to understand, to make it understand to the president here, is very good, he understood. But some behaviors are detrimental to the team or for your own personal life. So if I give you an example, like traveling with a better bus. Do we win or lose for that? We don't win or lose for that. But if the player doesn't have the back broken by a bad bus, maybe it's easier to win. Or having the buffet at the right place on time, when you are at the hotel with all the dishes lined up properly. Does it help you win or lose for that? No, clearly. But it helps to give, I'd say, mental organization to the team, to the players. If the money comes on time, do we win or lose for that? Luckily, no, because my experience at Strasbourg was rough with the money. But they always came, but it was not so precise as it would be it's important for the players. So all these little things you can improve and you can do. So in my case, I try to do everything that makes me aligned with victory. There are colleagues that they don't want to finish the roster by end of July, no matter what, because they have to go to holiday. Having a wife that understands that maybe I don't find the last players, so there is no holiday, and they have to stay at the phone until August 20th or later, it's a blessing. So people from the outside don't see this, but sometimes I'm wondering how these people don't see that he's finishing the roster every year by 20th of July. but because this is what happens. So I try to be loyal to victory. If I feel that something that I'm doing or the players are doing or the club is doing is not faithful to victory and is bringing me farther to victory, I stop and I readjust. So watching the games, be in a decent shape, be updated, have a good relationship with the people around me. This is what makes me bring closer to victory. Having coached it is very good. This is the rule in the end.
Yeah.
Be faithful to victory.
That's a good rule. It's like two things that I feel like a strong wife, like you said, a saint that supports and understands the job and understands the job description as a whole. That it's really necessary. Also, it's not necessary, but it's very helpful to have a whole experience in life, as much as work and life, and balance it together and have a strong backbone to support you in those times and be empathetic as well, to understand you in your situation. The second thing that I want to add on to that with the does it help or does it not help to win a better bus, salary on time, etc., etc. I had some conversations with Sharos, and it was, I mean, I'm not name dropping, it's not a secret level of Sharos, and we know each other, but it's he said one thing one time that I can remember. It was a random situation, and it's all about percentages, and it's not talking about shooting percentages or like free throw percentage or whatever, defensive rebounding percentage, whatever. It's talking about the percentage, and he didn't explain, he didn't elaborate on that, but I got the idea from the situation, that it's all about of what situation you put yourself in and how much could it help you to get to the victory. Like, does it, the percentages that it can add on to, it's not going to be, it shouldn't be or can be most of the time make or break, but a better bus, it could help 1% or 2% to help down the line. If you add those percentages up with other factors, it will lead to the victories. It will lead to a successful season. But without that, without those 2%, without those 4%, without those 10%, whatever those, however you want to allocate it, the success may not come. So it's all about the percentage and how you, what are the chances of that happening? If I go there and like I put myself in a situation in danger, like there's a higher percentage that I could get injured or I could get robbed or whatever. It's, it's about being mindful of the situations you put yourself in. And it's not only, I'm not only talking about basketball, but also in life situations where you should be able to not calculate everything precisely, but percentage wise be able to project, okay, this is probably not the smartest thing. 50-50, sometimes it's like 20% of it happening. So I think it's good to be mindful of that.
Yes, I think I don't have the pleasure to know Saras, but of course he's a great coach, and same as he was, amazing player. And I think it's the same philosophy. Actually, just read a very interesting book on this topic. But as a basketball people, we should refuse the concept of luck. Then, of course, we say that there is luck, but we have to create our own luck. So when the ball is dancing on the rim, I think it's more likely that goes in than out if we have a good mood, good team spirit, the president is aligned with the coach, with the fans, with the team, and everybody's grinding and there is a positive atmosphere. Then, salaries are not on time, fans are against the team, the coach doesn't talk to the president, that ball probably will fall off. So this is the situation that I try to imagine every time, or how I'll break down the different situation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the alignment, and then like you try to eliminate the bad percentages and try to improve the game as a whole, or the club as a whole. Did you watch? Have you seen Coach Carter?
Yeah, just recently.
Really?
Yeah,
So my question to you: what's your biggest fear?
biggest fear. It's not related to basketball. It's about personal life or health, losing health or losing my beloved ones. But in the basketball, I'm fine. I don't have biggest fear.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like we get, like I said, we're in the fourth quarter. It's philosophy time. So the thing, the biggest fear, I was thinking about today because I was listening to different podcast um, of not reaching my own potential. Of wasting potential. Whether it's not only also not only basketball or job related, but potential as a human. So it's constantly it is based on fear. So that is the biggest fear of me not optimizing myself to the fullest and being able at the end of the day, I wasted so much of my potential and so much of my own, like whether it's character, whether it's the ability to do something, to change something, to impact. And that's my biggest fear of not being able to actually fulfill everything that I was put here to do, whatever it is.
I think this is interesting. That extent could be mine too, or not to lose time no matter what, because
Yes.
time is the only resource you cannot store, you cannot replicate. So that's I can say that could be my biggest fear.
That's if like we read a lot, so I think that's those things we connect with a lot as well. So those are things that I feel like people should think about more and not be caught up in the moment too much, and think about the picture as a whole. So which books do you feel like can you share, like, that you read recently that impact your daily life, or that you're broaden your horizon currently?
I think because I expected this question, honestly. So because we talk often about books, I read two type of books. One is investments book. I'm not a trader. I'm more Warren Buffett style. And the other one is personal improvement books. So the two ones that I would push for now, one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think this is very interesting because it talks about this. It talks about compounding in the end, compounding of little improvements. So this 1% rule, we could call it, trying to do everything in your life, break down your task, break down your life, and do everything 1% better. Each of us can do it. This is just the sum up of the book. Of course, the book has much more juice, and I recommend it. This is a very interesting book. To me, it's really bright. And another one that it's not new, but to me, it makes a lot. And it's one of those books that you could read every 6 months. It's the Meditations of Marco Aurelio, because, it's written quite a long time ago, but it seems written yesterday. And it gives you so much wisdom, so much important things that you can reflect on this book. And really, I recommend this to everybody. Then, of course, the third book, but this I could ask you, but I think we are on the same page, is the book of Naval.
Naval, yeah. Naval,
Naval,
yeah.
of course, that book is it's a
Naval,
can't miss.
Naval is next level. It's a modern Marcus Aurelius, I guess. I
Exactly.
mean,
It's the modern Marcus Aurelio. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's unbelievable, and the way he puts it is very simple, precise, and short. It's straight to the point without wasting any words. And I wish I could talk like him, basically. So
Yeah, because it tells everything with 5 words, 3 words.
yes,
It's,
yeah.
it's impressive, and it's the Marco Aurelio of Silicon Valley. So it's
Yeah. um, two more things that I wanted to finish up on. The second thing is that after talking about books, but the second thing is what you we're gonna talk about your home a little bit after. Actually, let's do that. Where do you live? Where is your home on my pod map that I want to put on my page? Where do you feel like is the your place of living that you would put the pin on? Because for me, a home is a difficult question to answer. That's why I ask everybody that.
For me as well, because I'm married a girl from South. I'm from almost North. I've been working in different places, so I missed mostly my summer house when I was younger with my parents. So I would say that the Cervia Milano Marittima area is my home, even more than Forli, because that's the place where I feel I belong to, and one day hopefully I will go back to.
Is that where we ate ice cream?
That's exactly that. We had the ice cream exactly in Cesenatico. That's the area exactly. In fact, I brought you there.
Yes.
We didn't go too much away because we were from Bologna to Pesaro.
Yes.
But that's where I feel really I belong to.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. The ice cream was phenomenal, and Maurizio loves that ice cream too. Huh? I heard.
Okay. Yeah, he's a Cesenatico guy too.
So last question to finish off for all the aspiring sports directors, GMs, executives, the top 3 tools you use to organize your work, apart from Synergy, watching video, but the top 3 tools that you use, whether it's on a laptop or it's on your phone. What are the things that you use to organize your schedule and your work?
I'm a big Google guy, so I have my Google Drive for my database, because I have a database of all the players that I like, no matter if I'm the GM of the Lakers or GM of Club Division 3 in Armenia. All the players that I like, I put in there. It's like a melting pot. And then on Google Drive, I have another file where I have the players for next year, depending where I am, depending on the budget. So I extract that. And then the third thing that I use always on Google Drive is the database for today. I always have a list of players that are available today. In the best point guards available, the best shooting guards available. This I need to know, because if I have an injury, I cannot lose time to start calling the agents. We play twice a week. So Google Drive it's very important to me. I live on Google Drive, and then of course the Google schedule, because I'm not very punctual normally. The Roma experience affected me a lot, and here in France they don't appreciate it, because in Rome, when you have an appointment at 11, means that more or less you will leave your house at 11 plus the traffic. So but people know, they don't get this. So appointment at 11, it's a more or less. It's like for maybe for the payments, it's the same. The date is a suggestion. But here, they're very punctual. So I use more and more my Google Calendar. That's very, very important. And of course, I rely a lot on these two tools that are vital to me.
Okay, and where do you take your notes?
Notes, I'm very old-fashioned, paper, and I use paper and pen, and then I like to translate into my Google Drive, because I like the feeling of the paper, the freedom. I like to write before rather than typing. Maybe I lose time, but on the other hand, I review a player twice.
Yes.
So I don't think I lose time. It may happen. Young generation can think this is slow, but it's slower. But you go twice on a player, so it's not so bad.
Efficient. It's inefficient initially, but it's more efficient long term.
Yes, for me it works well. What do? You use paper or you just?
Usually I prepare on my phone the notes, and then I type it in Cliff Notes, and then I type it out in full, in more, like, not full sentences. The reports are never long, but they're more efficient, clear to the point. There's no need to extend and to go into details. If you know basketball, you know basketball. Can he play? Can he not play? Why? And I think the quicker, the shorter, the better. Because there is a overly amount of information out there, and it's overly amount of players out there, and the more efficient and the not necessarily quicker, but preciser you work and you put the notes down, the better you can remember. And I would have to go back and reinforce, like you said, maybe to when I see the player, I have to double check what my notes said, because it's not always 100%, because you know, like, you have to second guess yourself sometimes as well. So I did one season with a notepad, writing notes and writing out in my book, but I didn't feel like it made a big dent. There is different research out there about what's more efficient, and I did the research and I tried it, but for me personally, it didn't make a huge difference. So it's more about, I think, the person of how efficient, or how what works better for them.
I think it also depends on the purpose, because for me, I think you have to do a description of the player a bit, or to figure out, to present the player to someone else. Me, I have to present it to myself.
Yeah.
So I just write the sentence. So would I sign him or not? Because sometimes you read beautiful reports, but okay, but do they sign him or not? Because after all this beautiful writing, so my notes are like the sentence, like I would sign him any day. I would sign him if I'm, the GM of a top 4 club and I need to make a bet. I would sign him from the bench. I would sign him in this context.
Yes,
or I would not sign him because Ben has told me he's a bad person. So I just try to put the sentence mostly. So I go back. This is why reviewing twice, since I put a sentence of death or life, it's important to me. So it depends also the purpose, I guess.
Yes. Perfect way to finish, Nicola. We did it. We went through it. I appreciate you coming. I think that you are and I tell people that, I think you're the most underrated sports director in Europe. Your future is in EuroLeague and maybe above. Who knows? However the cookie crumbles. I believe our relationship also is not just any relationship. That's why I feel like your value system is very strong, and our relationship has proven that. So I'm wishing you all the best. Thanks for coming on. And how can people find you or message you on? I saw you on Twitter.
I'm I'm not very good with social. I'm on Twitter, but my email is the best. It's my first.
Don't say it. Don't say it. No. Don't say it. Okay. If anyone comes, they come to me. Don't say it.
Okay, they can come to you. But I thank you for the great words. Actually, I was expecting the leader writing. There may be goods put on this video for commercial purpose, but great endorsement to me. But yeah. Let's say social media will work, but thank you again. Thanks for having me, Venice. Our friendship is it's a blessing for me, and I love to share basketball ideas and life ideas also. That's what special to me. We don't only have to talk about basketball, or that's part of the relationship. So really, it's great, and I thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Nicola. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Ciao.